Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's Intersect Town Hall. I'd like to thank everybody who comes in and views us live or even watches us recorded of the town halls. These town halls are, as always, important. It is part of us showing our commitment and the transparency and how we coordinate as an entity and making sure that governance is reaching in all angles of Cardano's community. And of course, as always, today we will be covering leadership updates and then importantly, the committee elections, updates on that, and then the protocol version 11, some global event highlights, and then just ended with how important it is to vote. So with that being said, I just want to share the agenda of today. It's just what I've repeated it. It will be Jack with the leadership, and then of course the committee elections by Val. Then we'll have Ryan talk about the protocol version 11 hard fork and Cardano updates, and then global highlight between Lara and me, myself, and importance of voting. So with that being said, let me bring everybody on stage. Ta-da. Hi, everybody. How are you guys doing?
Hi, all.
Great.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello. So, Jack, do you want to start it off by just giving us a bit of an update from your end and what's going on and
I'll give a quick update and recap. So I guess I'll quickly just I know many of you know what Intersect does and doesn't do, but maybe I'll just really start on sort of the summary of Intersect as an org. Essentially, we have three areas, focus areas. Firstly, we're a member-based organisation, so members in the driving seat across the board, and all our committees, which Val's going to speak to a little bit later as well. They essentially exist to help address and solve, make recommendations for the biggest challenges and opportunities facing the Cardano ecosystem and network. That's why members join us and hopefully make good recommendations to the ecosystem that can get voted through potentially as a governance action or adopted as some research or some standard or a process that moves forward. So members are doing that across obviously all our committees. And there's lots of stuff that's coming through from them soon. One of them is the starting of the constitutional working group for looking at the amendment process, so making more improvements and optimizations to the constitution later this year. The Civics are also working on the CC election process and starting that up again for the summer. As you know, there is a level of predictability already in the governance system. Every summer we have to elect new members of the CC. At least that's currently how the expiries work on the CC that we have at the moment. I think it's 4 members of the CC expire in September, and so voting will open up similar to how we did it last December, and also in June, I think it was last year. We'll run the very similar process again to select and confirm our new CC members. And then the TSC and the parameter committee are also working on other parameter changes, such as the part 2 of 2 to the one that was previously approved. I think that's coming later in the year. There'll be another parameter change, I think, due soon. Ryan, maybe you can speak to that better than I can. And then also resubmitting the min committee size from 7 to 5. I will just clarify something actually on this one, because I think there was some things lost in translation about this min size committee action. It isn't to reduce the committee. So that's the really important part. We could still have 9 members of the committee, but the min size being 5. So that we don't end up in a position of maybe stagnation or stuck in the mud for not being able to move forward on something. The ambition, at least, or the design process of the staggered elections we have so far are working to a body of 7, and we'll continue to work to a body of 7 unless the Civics Committee and the community, of course, want that to go to 9 maybe this summer. But the min size will be 5 to avoid going into a position of sort of not being able to do anything and essentially repeating what happened last December. So that's the purpose of that parameter. It's not to shrink the CC, it's just to be having a minimum acceptable level of the CC if we have recommendations, essentially. So that's our members, really, the things. Very grateful for all the work they're putting out, and there's so much going on. Actually, they're probably not doing a good enough job of showing what's happening, so that is on my radar to communicate better. The second part of Intersect is our technical coordination. Ryan's going to speak a lot about that in a minute, so that's good on the next Cardano upgrade. But that also includes security response and incident management, which we've done previously in November, and also over Chang and Plomin upgrades. And throughout the period of Intersect, we have a security incident response. We've got new people working in our technical team. Sam Leathers and Mike Hornan joined us earlier this year. So this team is growing and getting stronger. So that's technical, and we do a lot of the sort of coordination network wide here. And again, a bit of predictability is something that I think the Cardano ecosystem and we as an industry should be moving towards more of. So for example, predictable upgrade cycles, maybe they're two a year, for example, and having a bit more of that foresight is useful, I think, for all of us. And the last bit of Intersect's, the three focus areas are our administration function. So we're currently administering, I think, over 360 million ADA of contracts via the Treasury. Much of that was approved last summer in the first budget process. We're about 6 months in or 7 months into delivery of those initiatives. Earlier in January, I think it was, I mentioned that we were producing a sort of 6 months in or halfway report on everything that we were administrating. You can hear directly from commentary from the vendors, and we'll be sharing all of the reports that we've been getting. Those reports are already available now, by the way. You can go onto the Treasury dashboard and see those reports for yourself. But we'll be producing a report to help with the upcoming budget cycle. In addition, next month we'll be pushing out our financial report, so our end of year for financial year 25. That'll be going out next month, and our own quarterly reports for our own Treasury funding. They just like any other vendor, they go out through the Treasury dashboard as well. So you can see up to quarter 4 last year, and quarter 1 will be submitted by us next month. That's the three areas. So members, technical, administration. Speaking about the budget process, because I know we've had a lot of sort of news this week. Catalyst is in a sort of period of hibernation, lack of better words, and apologies if I'm not getting that framed quite rightly. But we know Fund 15 and Fund 16 are not happening at the moment. So the allocation for Fund 15 and 16 and operating costs will be going back to the Treasury. We'll be doing that orderly with the CF and IO. Half of that we still have in the Treasury reserve contract that we administer, so that's an automatic thing for us to be able to do. But we'll be working with the CF and IO over the next coming weeks to resolve that. So that will go back to the Treasury. In the same sort of period, really, when we're looking at sort of the spring of this year, the next budget process that Intersect ran last year is going to run again, but loads of improvements, tons of changes and optimizations compared to what we did for the first time last year, which was good. By the end of it, it worked, but it was hard to get to the end. This is going to be easier, I hope. We've worked with vendors and DREPs to see like how would this process work best. So a couple of sort of top lines on this. We're going to be using the Ecclesia platform developed by Adam Dean and Mad Orchestra. They're going to be doing that end to end now. So if you remember last year, we had multiple tools running. That's not something we'll be doing anymore. It's one tool, which will include a much better feedback loop for DREPs to work and collaborate with the vendor on the proposal that they're asking the community to fund. That will go through a period of a month or so of iterations, and then it will go into a voting period on Ecclesia, where you'll need to have 67% plus of participating DREP stake to be considered for a Treasury withdrawal. So it's a much higher threshold than we had last year. That was a key piece of feedback that we got last year, and that's a nice change. But I think for me, the most important change, and this is really in light of everything that's been happening over the last few weeks with Catalyst and ecosystem funding in general, is what are we wanting to fund and what is going to bring the value, and where do we want to be targeting value at with our Treasury. So fortuitously, and from good work from the product committee, there is a Vision 2030 that was approved by supermajority of DREPs, I think back in February. Well, we're still in February. Earlier this month or end of January, I can't remember exactly when it passed. In there are suggested KPIs, in there are strategic pillars. It's very detailed, and this is what we're going to be referencing for or encouraging, I would say, vendors to be working towards, so that we have a shared understanding of what we're pointing towards over the next few years. In particular, I guess the next 12 to 18 months, but let's looking ahead to 2030. KPIs are in there as well, but we also know there are 100 KPIs that we don't know and will never know without that collaboration from vendors as well. So all of this will be formatted into a much cleaner template for vendors to input their proposal in. So that they'll have to suggest the work, they have to detail the work package, sorry, and have to indicate what KPI they're working towards, how they're specifically going to contribute towards that KPI. And there may be also 100, like I said, 100 other KPIs that they're considering as a business, which they can also factor into their proposal for that nuance. And as I said, it's all in one platform, so it'll be hopefully a much more cleaner end-to-end process, with DREP still very much in the driving seat and in control, not just in the off-chain part of this process, but of course, when it hits on-chain, DREPs can vote that down again at that point. So there's lots of checks and balances in this process to make sure the community are funding what the community want to fund, and that's going to drive the value that we need as an ecosystem back to the ecosystem. So that's the budget process. That will be, for all of what I've just said, much clearer, will be formatted in a budget info action, process info action. So the community is saying, yes, we do endorse this process to start, and we'll see where it goes. That info action will go out. I'm aiming for next week, and DREPs will approve that, and then the budget process will start from that point. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I was going to mention. Oh yeah, one more thing. Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes. On the administration report that we're putting out in a few weeks, we're also making an agreement with M Labs and D Quadrant to do spot audit checks on technical proposals that we're administrating. So that will begin in earnest, and we'll be producing those reports back to the community, of course, but also it will help us be a more effective administrator. So I'm pleased about M Labs and D Quadrant doing that work for us, and they're two well-known and very capable organizations in our ecosystem. Okay, I'll pause there, Abs, because I'm waffling now. So thank you, everyone, and I hope everyone has a lovely February and March soon.
But Jack, you're never waffling. I can tell you, I like how you set the stage and you kind of give a whole overview of what's happening, because sometimes even us working in our own segments, we miss what's going on. So it's actually refreshing to hear all sides of things coming from you. So it's really nice to hear that update. Yeah, I mean, I know you touched upon the committee and the committee election, which is kind of leading up to the next stage, which is Valeria talking about the committee elections, a bit of update there. So Val, do you want to take the stage there?
Hello, everyone, and thanks, Abs, for having us today. So yes, I'm here to share some exciting updates about the 2026 Intersect Committee elections. Yeah, so the first thing I want to mention is like this round is shaping up to be really important one for the community. It's kind of I mean, it's the first time that we are adding like a new platform, but let me talk about that later. But let's start maybe with some key dates, especially if you're thinking in running your campaign and taking a step into the elections. So from March 30, any paid Intersect member can officially submit their application to stand as a candidate. So if you are considering stepping up, I would say this is your time, this is your moment to start preparing your ideas and putting your name forward. The applications are going to close on Friday, April 17. So make sure you don't leave it at the last minute, please, please. Then regarding the next step is the voting. Voting opens on April 20 at 12 p.m. UTC and closes on May 1st at 12 p.m. UTC. So it's going to be a period of 2 weeks. Then we're going to have an audit phase that begins on May 2nd, and the result is going to be confirmed on May 3rd. And then finally, the results are going to be published on the members area on May 4th. So as I mentioned before, this time we have something like really exciting to help bring the elections to life. And this is that for the first time, the Intersect Virtual Hub will be available for committees and candidates to campaign. This means candidates will have a space to share their vision, to talk about what they want to achieve, connect with members. That I think that's really, really important, and really make their campaign visible and interactive across the community. So we are planning to run and support everyone, and also like we are recommending people to use the virtual hub. It's going to be like great. It's going to be super exciting. So yes, start thinking about what you want to contribute, what change you want to see, and how you want to represent the community. More updates are coming soon, so stay tuned. Next week, we're going to publish a blog with more information and more details. And I really hope to see you, many of you, stepping forward and see you in the elections and in the virtual hub. So thank you. Any questions? I'm just trying to read if there is any comments.
Not really.
No.
But there is a comment that says, "Great updates." So thank you, Taryn, for commenting on that. Yeah. If you guys have any questions, please post it on YouTube. We can display it on screen, and we can try to best answer it. So yeah. And we've got one. So thanks, Val. And I think you may have touched on this, but I think last year there was a lot of spaces that were happening, and I think this year, with the virtual hub and X Spaces and many other ways of socializing this committee elections, it will be great for outreaching every part of the community, Cardano community. So I'm looking forward to this, and I know at MCC everyone's looking forward to this. So we'll make sure that we really ramp up the spaces this time and get as many eyes for all the election. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree. And also something to mention is like we are still going to have the X spaces, but this time we are also getting the virtual hub, which I think is going to be like the perfect platform for campaigning, doing some network. And when I'm saying campaigning, it's not only for candidates, but also for committees. So yeah, it's really, really exciting.
Yeah. Thank you, Val. As always, it's an important moment for members to sort of step forward, as Val mentioned. So look out for a lot of information coming in from the next couple of weeks about the elections. So yeah. Thanks, Val. Next, we're going to be talking about protocol version 11 hard fork and a bit of Cardano upgrades by Ryan. So Ryan, do you want to take the stage and let us know what you got?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Can you put up the slides, Abs?
I'll talk to them. Yes, I can. I was just looking for that. Perfect. There you go. Yeah.
There we are. Perfect. Look at that. So I'm coming here with an update from the hard fork working group, working under the technical steering committee. And the hard fork working group acts to try and coordinate, Cardano's network upgrades. So this coming one is to protocol version 11. And this hard fork the naming's now been confirmed. We did an info action to confirm this. The naming's now been confirmed as the Van Rossum hard fork after Max Van Rossum. So jumping into the updates here, we have two key node releases that we've been tracking from the IO team. So the first one that's come out is 10.6.2, and this node contains a hard fork functionality, but it won't be used for hard forking mainnet or preview or pre-prod. This has been released and we've used it to upgrade Sanchonet, and so that allows people on Sanchonet to test out some of the new protocol version 11 features, and mainly like the main scope of this hard fork is like Plutus enhancements as well as some small ledger fixes and improvements like that. So if you're keen to test that out, feel free to jump on Sanchonet. The next node release which we're waiting for, targeted hopefully the next 1 to 2 weeks, is 10.7. This is a full fat, ready to go mainnet hard fork candidate node. So this is what we're targeting to use to fork preview, pre-prod, and mainnet. Once that's released, that'll be the time for everyone to jump in, start integrating and upgrading your tooling, so you're ready for the hard fork when it comes. Another key tool that we track is dbSync, as it's used super widely through the ecosystem. There's a pre-release out for that to work with 10.6.2. So if you want to try the protocol version 11 on SearchNet, you can use this new pre-release from dbSync, and there'll be more updates on that coming soon. Let me go to the next slide. Whoops. In addition to the hard fork, we'll also be upgrading the Plutus cost models. Like, these are protocol parameters which allow transaction fee costing for when you're executing scripts on the chain. And since the hard fork is introducing new built-ins, so like new functions, new features to Plutus, we have to update the Plutus cost models to add the costings for that and make sure people can use them. So ahead of the hard fork, we plan to submit Plutus cost model updates for Plutus v1, v2, and v3 scripts across all networks. So the advice is, if you execute scripts on chain, please make sure that your tooling reads the latest cost model from on chain, because if it doesn't do that and we update the cost model, your tooling may break, and you may be paying too much transaction fees or something like this. So that's to be aware of. Playing into that is this script data hash, which is like the error code you get if you misalign some of these costings. Parts of the hard fork would improve this. So there's a well-known error code that people are used to seeing it if you're building in space, called PBV script hash. The protocol version 11 will bring better error reporting for that, but it's just something to be aware of. The hard fork working group is we've been meeting every 2 weeks. We'll bring that up to every week as we're near release of the 10.7 node. To increase the reach of the group and to get the word out, we're going to start doing Twitter Spaces from next week, so look out for that. Let's jump to the next slide. Yeah, and just to keep informed, we have this hard fork working group channel in Intersect Discord. We share weekly upgrade bulletins, which go out every week on the Intersect X account. So these are like articles which just give the updates from that week. To keep everyone in the loop. Alternatively, you can reach out to the email there if you have any questions or anything to add if you want to contribute. We also have this shared calendar there, so everyone's welcome to contribute. We have contributors from across the ecosystem. Anyone who's keen to follow the upgrades and to be one step ahead are all on the call. Additionally, we have the accompanying Gitbook pages where we track things like ecosystem readiness. So I invite everyone to have a look over those Gitbook pages if you don't mind. Make sure that your favorite tools and the tools you build are being tracked on there. And then that informs the hard fork work group to ecosystem readiness, right? And they can decide when to submit the upgrade actions when it's time. Okay. Any questions?
Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, I'm checking the comments. Is there Ryan, is there a link to this what you're showing this
I'll put it
slides
in the chat.
Yeah. If you can put
I'll
it in the chat, then I can then put it as a banner or something. I can put it on our YouTube chat so everyone can kind of
perfect. Yeah. I'll just take the links from this slide and put it in the chat.
Sure. Awesome. Thank you, Ryan, for these updates on the hard fork and some Cardano upgrades. But moving to the next one, which is basically events, global highlights, and what's going on. As you know, our governance is not just in one spot of the world. We are going everywhere. So being that, I would like Laura to take the stage and talk about what sort of events we had recently, and give a bit of update on that. No.
Hello, everybody. How's everyone doing? Thank you so much for having me here, As. Hello, Ryan, Jack. Hello, all viewers. I'll be more than happy to chat a little bit about our events that we've had so far. We've had 2. Let me just share my screen. 1 second. So I'm going to have to share my entire screen, apparently. There we go. It's in slideshow mode now. Could you let me know if you can see it? All right, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Right. Okay. So far in 2026, we've had 2 absolutely incredible events. One of them was the Cardano Africa Tech Summit and Consensus Hong Kong. They're slightly different to each other, but both were incredibly important for the ecosystem. And honestly, I think, Jesus, sorry, I just had multiple messages at the same time. Both of them allowed us to view different, I would say through different eyes rather than our own. Consensus Hong Kong is a very broad ecosystem, a very broad crypto ecosystem event. And so is Africa Tech Summit. But now having the opportunity of having a Cardano, I would say, island within the event was absolutely incredible for our team to meet the community and see boots on the ground how the Cardano African community feels about everything and how they're interacting with our ecosystem, with the governance structure, and so on and so forth. I'm going to stop talking a little bit about Consensus Hong Kong because that's Abs's world, and I'm going to let him speak a little bit more about it in a couple of minutes. And I'm going to dive in on the Cardano Africa Tech Summit. Now, I've only got pictures for this because I'm going to babble your ears off from what I know instead of just having a lot of text. We've had so many great experiences in Nairobi. This year was just absolutely amazing. Unfortunately, I didn't have the chance to be there, but everyone who did, we had Jack himself, we had Nick, we had Simo and Larissa, excuse me, aka, sorry, aka Lally. And they all gave us absolutely incredible feedback from what they've seen and who they interacted with, what would their experience like in Nairobi. Literally just positive reviews from everything. From Nairobi itself, an absolutely wonderful city, extremely welcoming. The Kenyan people were also extremely embracing to everyone, different cultures. I know Lally, she told me that she never felt such at ease in a place before, and it was just so welcoming, so embracing for her, and she saw the world with different eyes that day. It was just great. As you can see here in the picture on the right corner, we have 4 different guys in there. They are part of the Intersect Developer Advocate Program as part of the open source office and connected with the open source committee. So it was absolutely amazing to see them together for the first time in there. They snagged a little picture for us so we could see them. It was wonderful to have them connect with other Intersect members and Cardano ecosystem community members. Just wonderful experiences. Now, left to that, we have 3 amazing people. Oh, also, Mike Horton was there. I forgot to say that. Sorry, Mike, if you're listening to this. Mike Horton was also there. We have Mike here on the left, Larissa in the middle, and Jack on the right. And you can see here, as on the left side of this picture, we have a snag of the t-shirt. Now, a lot of people do know this already, but we went a little further with it this time. We usually always bring in components, cultural components and touristic location components to all of our t-shirts because we really like to embrace the local culture for everything and everywhere we go to. But this time, we decided to go with an actual, when we produce our merchandise, we usually look for local vendors. Since everything is so specific, we don't like to produce everything in bulk in the beginning of the year because we want to do dedicated things to everyone. But for this year in Nairobi, we went with a specific brand called Kitu Kali. And when we arrived at the event, a lot of community members told us how well reviewed Kitu Kali is, how committed they are to producing great merchandise, great quality, how they support the local communities, and just how great they were. So it was a bigger plus for us because we were working with a very community connected brand, not necessarily the Cardano community, but also the local Nairobian and Kenyan community. Everyone appreciated it so much. It was just so good to hear that positive feedback, and they loved seeing the African and Kenyan components in their t-shirts. So I was more than happy. I was ecstatic to hear this from them. Just great experiences overall. Now, okay, we've had a couple of talks. As you can see here in the middle picture, we've had Nick participating in a panel about turning blocks to solutions. It was a panel that was discussing how do we bring the blockchain information into the actual real world and apply this to real world solutions where people can actually use it. So it was just a great talk. He was one of the moderators in the panel as well. Both moderators were Alex Maza. You guys might know him from CF, and Nick, and they were discussing it with everything alongside the other speakers. On the left, we have Mike Hornan explaining a bunch about SPOs, DREPs, how the governance system works within Cardano, what the Constitutional Committee works with, to a lot of community members who were there at the time. And on the right, as I mentioned previously a couple of minutes ago, the Africa Tech Summit is an event that has been happening for quite a few years now, but it's never had an actual Cardano appearance. It's one of the biggest events, tech events within Africa. And this year, because of the proposal that was approved last year in the budget process for the the events initiatives run by CF, Emergo, WADA, and Rare Evo, we had the opportunity of having a Cardano island within the Africa Tech Summit. So attendance was great. A lot of Cardano projects were part of this Cardano island, including Intersect, where we had our own booth. Now we have a couple more pictures. We have Simo, and they're also showing the t-shirt. Oh, man, I can't stop talking about the t-shirt. I loved it. I got myself one because Lally snagged one for me. Haha. Jokes aside, it was just great. And then we have Mercy, one of our board members, appearing in one of the pictures as well, alongside Jack, Mike Hornet, and unfortunately, I forgot her name on the right, but she's amazing as well. I met her at Evo last year. And on the top left corner, we have Nana Safo. Nana is actually part of the WADA team, and he's been helping us through everything and all of the processes that belonged to the Cardano Africa Tech Summit. On the left corner at the bottom, we have Jack actually speaking. He had one of the main talks within the Africa Tech Summit, and I actually would love to hear more about your point of view, Jack, on how that talk went, if you don't mind speaking a little bit about.
Yeah, sure. No, it was a great event actually. Starting off with congratulations, WADA, for a very well organised event. I think there was like nearly 5,000 people at the Tech Summit, the main one, which was awesome. And Cardano booth was just popping off. We also had like a silent disco thing, which was for the keynotes that were happening on the Cardano booth. It was also great to reconnect with people that I met in Nairobi for the convention, for the Constitutional Convention. So I personally enjoyed doing that, obviously, because I've made some friends. Yeah, I mean, to me, the energy in Nairobi is just, well, and also just in Africa in general, is off the charts. It really inspired me, actually. And one of the things that followed on from the Tech Summit was the hackathon that WADA ran across the region over the previous months. That culminated in the winners being announced at the Cardano Summit version of that event, so on the Friday. And the 5 winners came up, and I've had some one-on-ones with those winners since then to take me through what they built. And some of it's just really inspiring, and it really reminds you of all the stuff that's being built in the background that many of us don't see enough of. Yeah, I came back buoyed from that. I mean, my keynote was really just probably a poor summary of all of the activity that's been going on in that region. I can never do it justice. So, but I was very grateful for the stage presence, of course, and putting Cardano up there with many others. Cardano, I think, was the gold sponsor of the event, and I think we're the only layer 1 at the event, which is one of the biggest tech events in Kenya and in Africa. So it was excellent presence for Intersect and presence for Cardano, more importantly. Yeah, thanks, Laura. No, it was very good. Enjoyed it.
Thanks so much, Jack. It's great to hear your point of view from this because, since I wasn't there, me speaking about people's opinions on it from the feedback that I received is one thing, and you as an actual participant is a whole other world. It's great to see how positive it was from your eyes. Now, yeah. All right, I would like to invite Abs to speak about Consensus Hong Kong 2026. I know you were there representing Intersect. Thank you so much for being there. It was great. And actually, For those who don't know, Apps has been part of quite a few events in Asia and Southeast Asia representing Intersect. It was just positive overall. He was there at Indian Blockchain Week last year and multiple hackathons throughout India, as well as you were at Token 2049 as well. And this year you had the chance of being in Consensus Hong Kong in China. So please let us know how you felt.
Yeah, let me share my screen first here. Yeah, I'll just add to the stage. There you go. So yes, Consensus Hong Kong this year was phenomenal. I was quite privileged to be there. And I only thank Jack and the rest of the team to allowing me to go to Consensus. Just so you all know, I did save a shirt for every one of you guys. I wanted to bring that out, that the shirt was a big hit. In fact, a lot of people came to our booth, the Cardano booth, in general, asking for the Intersect shirt because the design was exceptional. In fact, it went that far that Midnight was telling us that, oh my God, you guys getting so much of footfall. Why is that? So even they were a bit jealous to some point. But overall, Consensus Hong Kong was a smashing hit. We had, of course, I was at the booth 3700, which was the Cardano booth, which was part of the unified proposal and then event proposal. And this was something amazing because I think when people came there, they saw, oh, Cardano, finally, a booth. You won't believe, even Cointelegraph's like, oh, finally, you guys have a booth. So it was quite a nice thing, refreshing thing to hear that. And it was also refreshing to kind of speak about Cardano as a whole because, they only know Cardano as ADA. Oh, how's the ADA price? But, then you kind of have to explain, well, it's not just ADA, there are many entities under it. And, the best thing is it's now, community led. The best thing about was that Midnight being right in front of us, I had that privilege going, well, Midnight's also, one of the entities of Cardano. And they were like, oh my God, really? So, it was a really like a teamwork there. And of course, Charles was there. You could see in the picture, Charles was there, Phil was there, Fami was there, and everyone was there. So it was, even the Rare Evo team were there. So it was exceptional. Some of the enterprise members we met, Cointelegraph, we met Ledger, of course, Alibaba was there. Of course, there were a lot of other enterprise members that came in. Some government entities also came in, who we were talking to I would say get them into governance, but also get into Web3 kind of thing. So they were quite interested in all that. Other than that, good news for Jack that I do have someone who's interested in inviting you to Monaco for an event. I'll let Laura know about details on that. But yeah, they're really interested in having Cardano at their event. I believe they already knew CF, but they did not know about the other entities. And I was like, hey, we can come in. And so, yeah, I'll give more information to Laura on that. But overall, great event. And it was absolutely phenomenal. It wasn't equivalently last year. It wasn't as packed. Last year, there was about 13,000 people coming in. This year, it's like around 10,000, 9,000, 10,000, purely because it was right before the Chinese New Year. So I know, but overall it was a good turnout. So it was great. So other than that, the talk between Charles, Phil, Fami, and it was exceptional. Everyone enjoyed that, and there was a lot of good things happening. So yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, can I jump in quickly?
Sure.
It's been good. It's been a busy month, like getting out there, and I think I just want to give an update on Pentad actually, because it does connect to how Cardano is being viewed at the moment externally, in that we are very much investing into the long term. Cardano is the place that you want to come and build. It's the chain that's going to be doing all the right moves, sort of sleeping giant, if you like. And it's quite, I was quite just humbled by lots of that over the last few weeks with conversations I've been having outside of those events as well. On the Pentad quickly, as you know, the Pentad have signed Dune, Pith, USDCX for Circle and Layer 0. Pith and Dune are both making good progress with implementation, so there'll be more news to come on the onboarding for Pith. That's due to go live in the coming sort of weeks. I think it's early April to mid-April that should be live on mainnet, which is awesome. Layer 0 is a bit longer. It is a much more complicated piece of work, but that's also going to be a huge unlock for us. And USDCX is imminent as well. So that's really, really exciting. On the Pentad, quickly, but just related to events, there will be, and sort of hot off the press from last night, a hackathon that Pith are putting on at Builderfest in collaboration with TX Pipe. So we've worked with TX Pipe and the Pith teams to make that happen. Well done, Ryan, because Ryan did a lot of the heavy lifting there. And that'll be super exciting. So there'll be a Pithathon. I don't know if that's how they say it, but there'll be a Pithathon the day or 2 days before Builderfest. I can't remember exactly when, but we'll get some communications out early next week on that. Okay, back to you, Abs.
Wow, I can't wait to hope that's live streamed. I would love to see that, on YouTube, just catching up what's going on there. But yeah, fingers crossed. But I do want to end this by just making sure that everyone understands the importance of voting. And I know Val is off, but Jack, just to kind of close it off, this year, of course, the committee elections, the proposals, it's ever so important for them to vote. So any word of advice to the committee, to the community, as for when it comes to voting, or how?
Well, I mean, yeah, the obvious is the obvious, right? Get out and vote. But everyone knows this in the system. I think the challenge is probably those that hold ADA that don't even know what's going on. The people listening to this right now are governance maxis, broadly speaking, right? If we're honest about the people watching this today, are those that already have pretty good grasp of what's happening on Cardano and how to vote and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, we have our own sort of internal voting with committees coming up in April. There's some changes there as well. We've got to have longer term lengths for committee members. This is in two reasons why we're doing this. One is that future committee budgets, so where a committee may want some funding to go and do a bunch of initiatives, similar to how the Open Source Committee had a budget last year and the Product Committee had a budget last year. When you have a 6-month sort of staggered roll-off, you end up having new committee members that never were sort of part of that budget process and that budget build out of what they wanted to focus on. So it keeps a longer level of continuity with members in those committees to see that work through to the end and be hopefully quite proud of what they've done. So that's one thing. And the other thing is connected to voting, actually, which is how do we have less voting events from an Intersect perspective, at least, on the ecosystem. Which means that we'll have April elections for committees moving forward, and in September, October, there'll be board elections for Intersect. So sort of two windows of voting, April and October, but committees are in one batch and the board are focused for September, October. So yeah, I guess obviously the call to action is definitely participate. It helps us get better. And I know that me and all the team at Intersect are active listeners. Like, we spend a lot of time making sure that are we doing the right thing at any given moment. It's quite challenging, actually, to try to respond to the demands that we see every day that can be new. But that's also, I think, one of the strengths that I love about Intersect is that we can be very agile. When we need to pivot on something, when we need to change something or do something new, we can respond quickly. And the Pentad is a good example of us mobilizing very fast and making that happen with the other members of the Pentad. So I'm proud of that work, but at the same time, it's really helped by people participating. So I do obviously want people to sign up and put their hands forward to be on the committees for Intersect. We need really good people. We've got great people already, but we need to keep strengthening that. Obviously, we want our members to vote as well. That's one of the big benefits of Intersect, is that you select the people that represent those committees, and those people in those committees are helping to address and solve some of the biggest challenges that we have as an ecosystem. So it's really impactful. It's like something that I think about Intersect and waking up in the morning and wanting to do. It's why I get up out of bed, because I feel like we're working to try and solve things as best as possible in a decentralized ecosystem. It's not easy, but it is definitely a new challenge, and it's a fun challenge. So yeah, I think the main thing really is that, do you know ADA holders that are not participating? Can they delegate to a DREP that maybe you recommend, or this is how you can go and find a DREP. So yeah, I think the second part to this actually, and this is connected to the MVG stuff. I was listening to the MVG, the Minimum Viable Governance Working Group X Space that they had, I think, last week, which was super interesting. Tons of really innovative ideas actually coming through there. That proposal was funded by the Treasury last year, so I'm really looking forward to the report that we all get as a community and Intersect get as the administrator as well. But we'll be looking forward for that, and I think there'll be definitely parts of that report that we can say, do we want to tackle some of these problems in the report? And making use of things like that, right? When we do reports, when we do research papers, when we produce standards, adoption and taking it forward is more of the harder step actually, but it's something that we should embrace and do. So I'm looking forward to that report and what comes out of that. Quite inspired by all the innovative ideas that were coming out last week on that X Space. Yeah, I get there. That's it, Abs.
No worries, Jack. Yeah, I think you touched on the committees a bit, and I think it's only right that we do take this opportunity to thank every committee member that has been, volunteering and working really hard currently in every committee, whether it's MCC or I see, any of these committees, when I go into and listen in, I see some seriously amazing work being done, and, all the committee members, they're putting their 100% to making sure that things get done. So just a shout out to all of them. A big thanks to all of you guys doing that and making it happen. So and also on that note, I do want to give a big shout out to about 113 people listening into us today, tuning in and listening into what we have been up to. So thank you all for coming in, listening into us as what we have been given updates on.
Yeah, I know. I've seen people joining Abs as well. It's like, oh, it's towards the end now, but hopefully you can watch back the recording if you've got time. On 1.5.
I know. I know. That's the thing, right? So yeah, go on. Sorry, James.
Cool. Yeah. No, good. No, thanks everyone. Enjoyed being here today, and onwards.
Thank you. On that positive note, see you guys next town hall. Take care. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Take care. Thank you. Bye.